Hi guys. So I'm wearing my binoculars because a lot of birds are starting to come out for a drink because it's getting kind of hot, and I thought, we have to have these so we can see the things far away. We were talking about mollusks and we were talking about crustaceans. Mollusks, they have their head on top of their foot or their stomach on top of their foot. That's what makes them a mollusk. They're very strange animals. Crustaceans, they all have a hard outer skeleton. Even the barnacles, those little legs they stick out, they have a hard outer skeleton on them. And that's an animal that even the krill that the whales eat, those are crustaceans. The shrimp in your shrimp salad, those are crustaceans. They're very interesting animals, and they provide food for a lot of others. But here on the table I have spiny skins. If you're going to use a big fancy science name for it, you would call them echinoderms. That means spiny skins. If you don't remember that, I don't care, as long as you remember spiny skins. Sea stars are spiny skins, and I think you can see why. This sea urchin used to have those long spines on it that actually helped it walk like little stilts. Like they weren't going to win any half marathons, but it helps them walk like little stilts. This one I just found lying on the beach. I guess it died, and it's kind of fleshy right there where the stilts connect, and they must have all fallen off. These are really pretty. If you put a light bulb inside this, like a little Christmas light, there are little tiny holes that it glows out of it. They actually make night lights out of these. You know sand dollars. These are some different kinds. These are from Sunset Beach. And here's one that's been rolling around for a long time, and it's all cleaned off. But this one still has a little bit of its little spines on it. It feels like Daddy's beard in the morning. Dad, shave. Oh, don't kiss me. Just a little bit is left on it, and they're very rough. It's not the smartest animal in the world, but it's alive, and it makes sparks of life, and it makes egg cells. Spiny skins. This is a beautiful one. Look at this little keyhole on it. I don't know why it has this keyhole on it. It looks cool though. Hello. It's very pretty. Here's where they take their food in right here. They push their stomach out that hole and wrap it around their food. This one came from Mexico, in Cozumel. I found it when I was scuba diving. It's only the top part of it. Look at the flower shape inside. But it's not pretty just because somebody's going to pollinate it or anything. Its body sticks to this part. Look at how it's all chewed up though. There was a parrotfish eating this, trying to get the algae off, because parrotfish are plant eaters, and it was kind of green and kind of slimy at the time, and the parrotfish went. That's how you get those beaches that look like kitty litter. They've either grabbed the coral to get the algae out of the coral, or they've scraped it off something like this, and when they spit that out, ta-da! I tried to pet that parrotfish. It didn't like it. It pooped in my face. Thank goodness I had a breather regulator in my mouth and a mask on, or I would have been totally grossed out. Would have been too disgusting. This is a 5-armed sea star. And you know crab fishermen, they have that, I like that TV show called Deadliest Catch. Although those guys say a lot of bad words. They beep them out all the time. I don't know if I'd want kids watching it, but it's an interesting program about how your crabs are caught for you to eat. And the crab fisher people were finding sometimes where they'd set their crab traps, and instead all they get were a whole bunch of sea stars eating the bait, like old fish heads that they use. You can't make any money selling sea stars. There's nothing on this that anybody wants to eat. These are their arms, but those little tiny things there that are usually really sticky and suction cuppy, those are their little feet. And they move this fast. Okay, on your mark, set, go. That's it. That's as fast as they go. But the guys were catching these, and they were going like, oh man, they ate all our bait. All we have are a bunch of sea stars. So they were in a mean mood, so they took out some machetes, those big knives, and they took a bunch of them and whacked off all the arms, frisbeed them back into the ocean. And they went, ah, we got rid of them. So then they came back maybe a few weeks later, and maybe a couple months later, and they reset their crab traps there. And when they pulled up their crab traps, it was still filled with parts of sea stars. So they had a center portion with little knobbies growing out, and then they had a big arm with five little knobbies growing out. And what they found out the hard way, after being so mean, was that each piece would grow a new sea star. Yeah. Served them right for being so mean. So they never did that again, and now they take their chances. Sometimes they catch crabs, sometimes they catch sea stars. But this animal can regenerate its body. That means regrow. And instead of 5, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the cookie part in the middle makes 6. Don't make their mistake. No mean guys. Hi guys. So these are falling out of the tree above me. This is that tulip poplar that has those flowers that the squirrels like to eat. But the tanager and the orioles, another yellow bird with a little black on it, they like to drink that nectar too. So sometimes when I'm sitting here, I blame the squirrels because there are flowers raining down on my head. But sometimes the tanagers and the orioles are up there doing some work too and trying to get some of that sweet nectar. For any parts of the tree that has died, the woodpeckers will chip it away to look for the insects underneath. And yeah, I have to be careful when I'm underneath these trees because stuff falls on my head. This fell on my head the other day. That'll do some damage. But do you notice the orange on there? Those are sporing plants. And first and second grade, you remember this. Kindergarten, you remember it too. You learned about plants that make spores. They don't have to pollinate. They just grow up, open up, and dump their babies, and they're done. And that's it. And a lot of times it's powdery and looks like cake mix powder. These lichens started growing on these tree branches because they get stuck on the feet of birds, the little spores. And as birds go from tree to tree, they get on there, and then the lichens grow on the tree. Lichens grow on rocks too. Some of them just like to grow on rocks. And what they like to eat are bird droppings a lot. If the birds are making their little poos along the branches, these plants will absorb those droppings. And they don't hurt anything, and I think they're really pretty. I like to use these pieces when I'm trying to make some kind of troll doll house or fairy houses. You know how we are. We like to do those fairy gardens, you and I. But I use these pieces in that because look how colorful they are. This is a fluffy one that's light sage green. And that's one, and so is this one right here, that the hummingbirds peel off my tree in the side yard, and that's what they camouflage their nests with. Now I know the hummingbirds are making their nests when all of the spider webs start to disappear, because I know where there are a lot of spider webs, and when I keep an eye on them, and when I see them disappear, it's like, ah, they're nesting. But I also see these disappear off the side yard tree, and these flatter kinds, I see them disappear too. All of these make really good camouflage colors for the hummingbirds, and you'll always find those sage green lichens in their nests. We have, and I'd like you to go online and look this up, it's called lace lichen, and just a couple years ago it became our state lichen. There were some people who really liked this lichen, and they wanted to have a state lichen. We have a state marine mammal, that's the California gray whale. We have a state butterfly, that's California dogface. But we didn't have a lichen. So they worked really hard to get it made into that. And I don't have any right now because it's a rubbery lichen. And when it dries up, it's just too crispy to show to you. But look online and look up California lace lichen. And you'll see our new state lichen. It hangs from the trees all mossy and green. It's real pretty. If you want to see a good little city to see it at, and you can't go there yet, when our governor said we can't travel yet, But near the ocean, there's a little town called Aptos, and I noticed that they had some there by the creek, and it was growing all over the trees because that stays in the shade a lot, and that lichen likes to be in shade. This one takes sun or shade. And at Quicksilver Park, there are orange ones growing on our state rock, the serpentine, and they're bright orange. They're the prettiest ones you've ever seen, and they're in full hot sun. So they can live in lots of places. They even live in the tundra where the reindeer are. I wonder if Santa's moved over to Greenland yet. Remember we talked about that? It would be a good move. I hope he's done it already. A lot of people have offered to help him.